Hey guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to do something quite different. I felt like recording a Halo video, I had no topics in mind, and I was like, you know what? Let's do something quite impromptu, something quite off the cuff, and record a tier list video, which is something that I've not done yet somehow. But this isn't any old Halo tier list video. This is, as you can see from the title, this is the only correct Halo tier list on the internet, which obviously is a joke. It's an ironic, comedic title. Please do not take that as a fact. This is a joke title. This is a video that is just based entirely upon my own opinion. You might agree, you might disagree. Be civil down in the comments. And let's get this bad boy on the road. Oh, and the video is also sponsored by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/HiddenXperia to start your free trial today and use code HiddenXperia for 10% off at checkout. More info later on in the video. Okay, so here we have the tier list, and we're going to get the kind of easy ones out of the way first. Starting off with Combat Evolved, down here, this bad boy. I mean, there really is only one spot for this. S tier. I mean, Combat Evolved is responsible for pretty much the entirety of modern console first-person shooters. It innovated the control systems, it innovated storytelling in first-person shooters, it innovated casual and also competitive multiplayer, it started one of the biggest franchises that will probably ever exist in the gaming industry. 30 Seconds of Fun became a core part of not just Halo, but so many different games, first-person shooters, and probably other games as well. I feel like it would be kind of illegal to put CE anything below S tier, even if you personally don't like Combat Evolved, because obviously it's aged quite a bit. I feel like even if you don't like Combat Evolved, you've still got to acknowledge how important of a title this was for not just the Halo franchise, but for Xbox. I mean, Xbox sure as hell would not be where it is right now if it weren't for Combat Evolved, and also the gaming industry as a whole. CE was my first Halo game. It was what got me into the series. That obviously makes it hold a special place in my heart, but there are reasons outside of that I think it deserves the S tier, and it just does. Halo CE is an S tier game, and that's final. Next up, we have Halo 2. Now guess where I'm gonna put this one. Yep. Predictable, I know. Halo 2 is my favorite video game of all time, not just my favorite Halo game. Halo 2 means so much to me as a video game, even though I started with Combat Evolved. Halo 2 is the one game more so than any that I love, just adore, from literally every single perspective as well. Halo 2's story, the campaign, the characters, the dialogue, the music, the multiplayer, the casual multiplayer, the competitive multiplayer, the maps, everything in Halo 2 to me, even the UI and the menu is perfect. It is what I envision when I think of Halo. Halo 2 is immediately what comes up. It's got a fantastic, deep, rich, but also quite accessible story that is very good for all types of fans, from deep, hardcore lore fans like myself to more casual Halo fans who just like cool action games. The multiplayer was fantastic for both not only casual, but also for competitive. I mean, MLG would not be where it is today if it weren't for Halo 2. Esports on consoles in general would not be where they are today if it weren't for Halo 2, and more so, online multiplayer as a whole would not be where it is today if it weren't for Halo 2. Bungie really innovated online matchmaking and social features with Halo 2 for the first time ever on a console, and again, just like Combat Evolved, the ripples of Halo 2 are still being felt today. This game is nothing short of a masterpiece. It sucks that Bungie went through such a horrific development for it, but in my opinion, the final product was, at least in part, makes up for the just horror stories of that development. Halo 2 is, again, nothing short of a masterpiece, my favorite video game of all time, and absolutely an S tier video game. And then Halo 3 also goes into S tier. I will say Halo 3, as much as I absolutely just adore this game more than most things in life, it is my least favorite just of all of Bungie's trilogy games. I love Halo 3, I love the story and the campaign, although the story wasn't as good as Halo 2's to me. I love it, but there are definitely areas where it could have been better, there could have been more fleshing out. The first act of the game on Earth, as much as I love it, It's not filler. I disagree with people that say that it's filler, but at the same time, I feel like there could have been more to it. The Guardian Sentinel stuff, that hurts. I still really wish that was in the game. And then multiplayer, dude. Halo 3 multiplayer innovated with the social and community features, and yet again, the ripples of those features are still being felt today. Features like file share, like ease of access joining friends and partying up after games, like ranking systems, like social and community playlists, like getting the community in on changing the way that multiplayer works by adding things like community-made maps to matchmaking and stuff like that. With customization as well, like progression and unlocks as well. I mean, Halo 3 really innovated mostly in the multiplayer department, much like Halo 2. Again, games nowadays would not have the social features that they do if it weren't for Halo 3. And at the same time, whilst it was also a very casual game, Halo 3 had arguably the best competitive scene out of any Halo game ever. Which really goes to show that you don't have to design a game entirely for esports for it to be a successful esport. I think that's something that a lot of games nowadays falter with. They focus too much on esports and not making a game fun. And Halo 3 really nailed it down. It really is, I think, generally speaking, the perfect multiplayer game for Halo. I don't think anything has topped it since, as much as I love Halo 2. I think Halo 3 was the perfect balance of social, of competitive, of casual gameplay, and competitive gameplay molding together. And again, it's still a masterpiece, dude. S-tier masterpiece. Right, now we have Halo Wars, which is going to be interesting. So, Halo Wars for me has the coolest announcement trailer ever. In the early to mid 2000s, I was a massive RTS fan. I played like Rise of Nations, I think it was called, Empire, Rise and Fall as well, but mostly I played a shit ton of Battle for Middle-earth. And so when I heard that Halo was getting an RTS, and I saw the trailer, like, God, how old was I at the time? I must have been 11, I think, 10 or 11. I was going crazy. I had those pictures as my desktop wallpaper for years, and then the game finally came out, and I liked it a lot, but I will say, comparing it to the RTS games that I was used to and that I loved, like Battle for Middle-earth, it was a bit of a letdown, and that, I think, primarily is because it was a console exclusive. It was limited very much by the hardware of the console, and also by the input, like the controller. I mean, RTS and controller is very different to keyboard and mouse. It's got to be a lot simpler, so I'm going to give Halo Wars 1 a B tier rating. I love the game, I love the story and the music. It was the first time that Halo ever really dipped its toes in something different, and I think it was absolutely successful. I just think that it could have been a lot better had it been on PC as well as console, and had it not been so limited because it was locked to console. Right, so before we continue down our rankings, a quick word from today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is a super easy to use yet beautiful website building tool that I used to build my first ever HiddenXperia website. I used their template feature to get this puppy up and running in less than an hour, allowing me to easily modify existing website templates to my own needs, and ensuring that I, somebody with absolutely zero web design know-how whatsoever, could design something that, I must say, ended up looking pretty damn iconic. Squarespace is a super flexible platform as well. I mean, I used it to easily create a website about my channel and my Halo journey, but you could just as easily use it to create a website about, well, literally anything. From your own business, to cooking recipes, to cryptocurrency, or hell, the history of garlic bread. Really, the sky is the limit. And with their 24/7, 365-day support, you will never get stuck designing your online masterpiece. So head on over to squarespace.com/HiddenXperia to start your free trial today and get to designing your masterpiece. And if you use code HiddenXperia at checkout, you'll even get 10% off any purchase you make. Once again, that's code HiddenXperia at checkout for 10% off, and squarespace.com/HiddenXperia to start your free trial today. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and let's return to the only correct tier list on the internet. A joke. Time for the comfiest Halo game of all. Halo 3 ODST, for me, is a very clear A tier. I love ODST's story and campaign so much, so much. Not quite as replayable as the original trilogy, and obviously the story was also very different, but the campaign in general to me is so fantastic. It's living proof that Halo games don't need to be focused on the Master Chief to be successful. They don't need to focus on Spartan super soldiers. They can be more grounded and more character driven as opposed to like a space opera bombastic story to be successful. And then of course the level of free roam that mixed in with the music and the aesthetic of New Mombasa at night just created this just beautiful and, like I said, really comfy game. The reason it's not S tier for me is because I'm personally not a massive fan of Firefight. I've said this in videos before, Firefight doesn't do much for me. I don't dislike it by any means, and ODST Firefight is absolutely the best iteration of standard Firefight. However, back in the day when ODST came out, there were quite a lot of games that were offering fantastic horde modes, and when it came down to it, would I rather play ODST Firefight, or World at War Zombies, or Gears 2 Horde, or Left 4 Dead Survival? Not really. I was always more drawn to Gears Horde and Zombies, for example. So if Firefight was better, and also I always kind of wanted to see some degree of like ODST multiplayer or something, like a more grounded version of Halo 3's multiplayer where you played as ODSTs. I always was kind of hoping that that would happen, but obviously it didn't. So yeah, the reasons that I just mentioned are why it's not quite S tier. The campaign alone is S tier, but the overall product is A tier for me. Right. Brace yourselves. You're probably not going to like this. Reach to me is a very interesting game. I'm going to put Reach in C tier. Now, hold your horses. Don't hit that dislike button just yet, right? Reach is a very interesting title for me because it is the most polarizing title, I would say, as a whole for the Halo community. And for me, it is the game with the most ups, but also the most downs. Like, for example, I absolutely adore Reach's story and narrative and characters. Even though, yes, I like the Fall of Reach book, I also love Reach as a game. Sorry, I just do. I know lore fans aren't typically a fan of that, but I personally love Reach's story. Yes, I love Emil. Emil is one of my favorite Halo characters, and I am proud to admit it. Sorry, I just am. What else did I love? Customization. Customization in Reach was fantastic. Bungie absolutely nailed it. And Forge was a great expansion as well. I was never really into custom games that much with Reach, so I can't really judge that. But honestly, story, art style and customization, and Forge are really where the positives end for me. Also Invasion. Invasion was beautiful. Chef's kiss. But that is really where it ends. Reach's standard vanilla multiplayer was the first time that I've ever felt myself disliking a Halo multiplayer, which at the time was a very weird feeling for me. I can't stand Bloom, I couldn't stand armor abilities, I didn't think the maps were that great overall, the map variety was pretty poor. Invasion for me was really where Reach's multiplayer shined. I still to this day can't play casual Reach multiplayer because the combination of Bloom, the poor weapon sandbox that I don't think is very interesting, and they're just not particularly good maps, just don't go together well for me. And then in terms of the campaign again as well, I find Reach's campaign to lack any degree of replayability. Although I love the story and the characters, I think the enemy design and like encounter design and map design again isn't great. At least to me, I never feel compelled to replay Reach's campaign. I mean, so much so that when I replay Reach's campaign for video footage, I exclusively do so with Vengeful Vadam's fantastic Reach Evolved mod that makes the sandbox more interesting. I feel like I have to. I just can't enjoy the campaign. And then Firefight as well. I mean, ODST Firefight didn't do too much for me, and Reach honestly did even less. Not a fan, but in terms of narrative, art style, customization, invasion, and also UI as well, Reach's UI was, again, chef's kiss. Reach excelled in those areas, but I can't put it any higher than C tier. I can't. Right, Combat Evolved Anniversary. This one is going firmly into D tier. It was nice to get a remaster of Halo CE, and it is definitely interesting to see CE with basically Reach art style, which in a way is technically more faithful because of course it occurs directly after Reach. It was definitely interesting to see that interpretation of Combat Evolved, but didn't do anything for me personally. I think it ruined a lot of the atmosphere of Combat Evolved. Levels like the Library, like 343 Guilty Spark, like Truth and Reconciliation, they're just far too bright, and I just feel like the original aesthetic that Bungie managed to craft so beautifully with Combat Evolved was really damaged with CEA's art style and aesthetic. And then just the lack of multiplayer. I mean, the Reach maps were alright, don't get me wrong, and so was that Reach playlist, but you can't you can't remake Combat Evolved and not remake the multiplayer.
That's illegal.
Right, this one's going to be interesting as well. Halo 4. Now, I have toyed with where I'm going to put this one so much, and I'm going to give it C tier, same as Reach, right? Halo 4, to me, I much like Reach in a way, adore the narrative, adore the characters. Chief and Cortana's story arc in Halo 4 and how it intertwined with like Lasky and the Librarian and the Didact, I personally loved. I do understand why people don't like Halo 4's story, but personally, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Though, like Reach, I feel like the campaign is not particularly replayable. I don't find the Promethean is fun to fight. I don't find the level design to be that great or that interesting, so I'm never really compelled to replay Halo 4's campaign. But then the multiplayer was just, like, everything I hated about Reach, besides Bloom, just dialed up to 11 with even more worse stuff put in, like custom classes, kill streaks and perks and stuff like that. Halo 4... its multiplayer for me over time has actually kind of aged decently, I think, because I've come to realize that it is an incredibly hyper casual game, and when I treat it as such, I do find myself enjoying it, quite honestly. I do find myself quite enjoying Infinity Slayer when I just turn my brain off and just AFK slay people. But as somebody who, in the kind of Reach and Halo 4 era, was massively into competitive Halo, watching Reach and Halo 4 in particular just kill the competitive scene. I honestly, I'll never forget that. It was really, really sad. It was going from like the absolute peak of esports in Halo 3 to literally with Halo 4, it got to the point where we were having to do events in comic book store basements with cables dangling from the roof. It was... oh, that was a depressing era for competitive Halo, and as somebody who is very into competitive Halo, especially at that time, I mean, back in that day when I was like 14, I wanted to be a Halo pro. When I got older, I wanted to become a professional Halo player, and Halo Reach and Halo 4 kind of destroyed that dream a little bit. But yeah, it is what it is. Halo 4, again, is quite polarizing. I love the narrative and the story, but... and also, actually, another very underrated thing about Halo 4 is the way that you unlock armor and like other stuff. Was there anything else to unlock? Weapon skins. The way that you unlock armor and weapon skins in Halo 4 was extremely underrated. Actually, in my opinion, the best unlock system, I think, that Halo's ever seen. It was like a really good blend of Halo 3 and Halo Reach. Everything both those games did right. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked we've not seen it return before. But yeah, besides the unlock system and the narrative, Halo 4 just doesn't do it for me. Right, so we're going to do two here. We're going to cheat a little bit. Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike. Now, these games, I find it almost unfair to compare them to like Halo Reach or Halo 4 or Halo CE because they are very different games. They have very different intentions, and I don't feel like they can be really compared fairly. However, for the sake of the video, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put both of them into D tier, and that is by no means saying they're bad. In fact, I actually kind of enjoy them as like a top-down twin-stick shooter, but they aren't particularly compelling. They're not really meant to be like anything crazy. They were just mobile games to play. Like, for example, I played them when I was on holiday once, just because I wanted to play something Halo. Great soundtracks. Spartan Strike had a cool flood mode. Yeah, absolutely not bad by any means, but just nothing compelling, really. Right, Halo 2 Anniversary. Now, as you can see, I have not put MCC in this list because kind of hard to judge that on its own, considering it is just an amalgamation of various titles. What I figured I'd do instead is just pull out the two notable ones, the two remasters, and here we have Halo 2 Anniversary. Now, again, this is one that I've toyed with quite a lot. I'm gonna go B tier. And that is only just B tier, because Halo 2 Anniversary's campaign, for me, I would say, is about a 95% love. A few of the assets that were taken from Halo 4, I'm not a fan of, but overall, I mean, the environments are gorgeous, the blur cutscenes, the audio, the remastered soundtrack, all of it was just fantastic, exactly what I would expect from a Halo campaign remaster. It basically corrected all the things that I didn't like about Combat Evolved, and put them in the game and gave it to Halo 2. And I mean, I must have replayed H2A now well over 100 times, if not more than that. I adore H2A. So, you're probably asking, given the fact that I love the campaign, why is it not A tier, or S tier rather? Well, yet again, another Halo remaster came with bad multiplayer, in my opinion. Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer is honestly the multiplayer that I enjoy the least, even more so than Halo 5. It's just Halo 4 without sprint and loadouts. It does a very, very poor job at emulating Halo 2's very intricate and unique style of multiplayer. There are no button combos, the maps are changed, and in my opinion for the worst. Like, those stalactites on Lockout completely break the flow of the map. Like, they're located in positions that you're meant to hold as power positions that are meant to be hard to break. You're not meant to be able to just shoot an object on the roof and have that power position be broken. It destroys the flow of the map. I will say the art style on some of them, the Warlock remake in particular, is really cool. That map to me just looks like Minas Morgul from Lord of the Rings, which is really cool. But overall, I really don't enjoy H2A multiplayer. The BR and the weapons in general as well just don't feel nice to fire. Like, the BR just feels really unresponsive to me. I really don't enjoy it. The map selection was poor as well. Really poor. There should have been a Midship remake. There should have been a Waterworks remake. There should have been a Coagulation remake. There were so many maps. I mean, H2A now, honestly, still needs more content. I still would love to see more content get added to that game. But yeah, that's why H2A is not an S tier game for me. It is very much a B tier game. Multiplayer just isn't for me. Right then, we then have Halo 5. Now, this is a game that, again, is quite polarizing. I know a lot of people that love Halo 5. Personally, not a fan. E tier. I'm sorry. I appreciate what they were going for. I appreciate the kind of style of gameplay they were trying to give Halo. But it just doesn't do it for me. I can't stand Halo 5's gameplay. To me, it's not what Halo should feel like. It's far too fast and far too just manic almost. Like, when I play Halo 5, or rather when I played Halo 5, I felt like I was getting mentally drained trying to play just like the most casual of game modes. And that really leads into the next thing as well with Halo 5. It isn't a casual game. There is no way to just kind of sit back and chill and play Halo 5, or at least there wasn't for me. What I always loved about Halo was that there were playlists there if I wanted to go and try hard and try and increase my rank, and there were playlists there if I wanted to just go and chill and just AFK slay people. And Halo 5 didn't have that. Everything felt hyper ranked in that game, even Warzone did to me. Then, of course, there's the rec system, which was absolutely awful. The way they ruined Halo's customization and progression system for it, just... no thank you. Campaign, no. The only good thing about Halo 5 to me, two good things, right? Forging customs, objectively great, even if you're not a fan of the game. Halo 5's forging customs were fantastic. And HCS. Although I didn't enjoy playing Halo 5, I enjoyed watching it, and it was great to see, kind of in tandem with H2A as well, 343 put a re-emphasis on esports and try and resurrect Halo esports, and Halo 5 definitely went a long way to do that. It's definitely not managed it, but it's gone a long way down that road to reviving the scene, and I'm hopeful that Halo Infinite can really just bring it back to Halo 3 levels. But overall, Halo 5 to me is personally not what I look for in a Halo game. It is, for the most part, the antithesis of what I enjoy in a Halo game. The story that we were pitched with all the marketing and trailers had me so excited. I loved the idea of Locke being this, like, Oni agent that was really mysterious and was sent to hunt down Chief, and you never really knew his intentions, but the Locke we got in the game was just uninteresting. I could talk for a long time about why I personally don't like Halo 5, but I'm going to leave it there because you've probably heard it all before. Halo 5 to me is an E tier game. I'm sorry, just my thoughts, but it really is. Right, this is going to be an interesting one. Halo Wars 2. Now, Halo Wars 2 to me, I'm going to stick in B tier. I go through this constant kind of flux of preferring one Halo Wars game over the other. I go through periods of preferring Halo Wars 2 over Halo Wars 1, and then periods of preferring Halo Wars 1 over Halo Wars 2. I think Halo Wars 2 definitely felt more like a PC RTS, like Battle for Middle-earth, like ones that I personally love, but at the same time, it still felt like it was kind of tied down by console. It still felt like it could have been bigger. The post-launch support for Halo Wars 2 was fantastic. It's a shame that it's been shut off now. But the new leaders we got were amazing. I love the units. I love having like modern Halo era units like the Mantis make its way into Halo Wars. I thought that was really cool. It's a game that I really enjoy. It had a fantastic firefight mode. Awaken the Nightmare was really good, even if some of the lore stuff was kind of not particularly good. It was still really enjoyable, so was Spearbreaker. Halo Wars 2 is a game that I have very fond memories of. Biggest thing for me, honestly, or the two biggest things, number one, introducing Atriox and the Banished, which was one of the most interesting additions to Halo probably ever, honestly, in my opinion. And also, the art style. Jeremy Cook and the team that worked on the art style for Halo Wars 2, they absolutely nailed it. I remember seeing this piece of art for the first time when it got leaked, I think. And I remember just freaking out at, like, the BR-55, seeing Jerome in his actual classic Mark IV and not changed to be like Gen 2 or something. It felt like it really fit in the Halo that I love, and that just helped me love it even more, honestly. I love Halo Wars 2, sometimes more than Halo Wars, sometimes less. They're about equal, but an absolutely solid B-tier game in my opinion, and I really hope that at some point in the future, Halo Wars 3 becomes a reality. And finally, we have quite a weird game that I'm sure most of you actually haven't played. Fireteam Raven. Now, again, this is kind of like Spartan Strike and Spartan Assault in that I can't directly compare it to every other Halo game because it is very different. However, this is going to shock you. A tier. Fireteam Raven is going in A tier. I played this for the first time a few years ago, and I was actually quite shocked. I really liked it. I always used to enjoy arcade games as a kid. And Fireteam Raven was a Halo arcade game that, I mean, that's great for me, a fan of arcade games. But even more so, I loved the way that it intertwined perfectly with CE and also the Flood. The scenes in Fireteam Raven where Chiefs show up are so badass. Like, I'm not even kidding, like, spine-chilling badass. It's that cool. Seeing him, like, jump over a rock and just blast a Flood form or something is so sick. When COVID blows over and the world is safe again, I highly suggest going to somewhere where you can try Fireteam Raven. I think you'll really like it. The team behind it did a great job, and yeah, A tier. Definitely not A tier for the same reasons as ODST, and definitely not a better game in like a direct comparison sense compared to like Halo Wars or Halo 2 Anniversary or anything, but I feel like I would be remiss to not give that an A tier. And so, that is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. That is pretty much my comprehensive ranking for all of the main Halo games, the primary like AAA games and main releases. I don't see this changing. It's going to be very interesting to see where Halo Infinite ranks on this. Honestly, right now, based on what little we know, I genuinely couldn't even give like a rough estimate to where I think it could rank. Honestly, it could end up being like an A or maybe I'm dreaming, but even S tier game. But then I could also see it end up being like a D tier game. Honestly, we're going to have to wait and find out. But I'm excited to find out. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, what your rankings are, what you think of my rankings, if you change anything or if you agree with it. Let me hear it down below in the comments. And so with that said, I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons as per usual for the support over there. And I'm going to bring this video to a close. Click this video on screen. YouTube has recommended it just for you, so you know you're going to love it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.